is a little past 7:30, so we will get underway. This is the May 14th meeting of the Jefferson City Board of Adjustment. My name is Jim Crabtree. As Vice Chair, I am sitting in for Andrew Hake, the Chairman, who is unable to be here. I'd like to introduce the board members. As I said, I'm Jim Crabtree, Brad Schaefer, Jay Seaver, here, Katie Lacey, Michael Eichner, and Roy Michael. Our candidate liaison is Trika Young, who is not with us yet. Staff members, would you please introduce yourselves?
Courtney Bliss, City Planner.
Eric Barron, Planning Manager.
Smith, Plan Tech Service Director.
Shane Wade, Plant Review Engineer.
Cynthia Pearson.
I'm sorry. Thank you. So I'm going to go through some procedural matters, so bear with me. Missouri law requires at least 4 affirmative votes to be cast for the approval of any official matter before the board. Alternates may be designated to vote upon the absence or disqualification of regular members. A quorum is 4 members, including an alternate if necessary to conduct business. And I will declare that a quorum is present, that Roy Michael will be voting for Drew Hake. Are there any members who feel disqualified from voting on the agenda today? Seeing none, the members will be myself, Brad Schaefer, Catherine Lacey, Jay Seaver,
And Roy Michael.
and Roy Michael.
Voting members.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Mr. Michael Eigner can participate in discussion but is not a voting member.
Okay. I call for cases. Are applicants present? Are all the applicants present? We only have 1 case, so I assume so. Staff, is there a request for a continuance?
No.
Is there a request for reordering the agenda?
No.
All right. So for all those who are here for case number B24001, would you please stand and I'll swear in for testimony.
There's anyone who is to give testimony this morning.
Very good. All testimony and evidence shall be submitted to the board under oath. At this time, all of those who wish to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please answer, I do.
I do.
Thank you. And welcome our council liaison. The format of the hearing and the list of exhibits will be conducted by the staff. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed?
One moment, actually. We typically read through the format of the meeting. I'll let Courtney do that.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to briefly describe the procedures of the board. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so please project your voice when speaking and give your name and address for the record. The standard order of these cases is as follows. After introduction of the request by city staff, the applicant or their consultant will provide information on the request. Given a presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes, unless additional time is granted by the board. The applicant should have an additional 3 minutes for closing testimony if requested. We will then ask to hear from supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from opponents of the request. We will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. Testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each, unless additional time is granted by the board. City staff will then give the report on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, references to print materials and applicable findings, including staff reports, references to print materials including applicable findings in the staff report shall not be read into the record unless directed by the board. The board will close testimony from the floor. The board will then discuss the proposal, then publicly make its determination of reasons. The motion shall be positive. That is, that the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented, or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. A final vote will be taken with ayes in favor, nays opposed. Their chair shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and their number of votes cast against. If 4 or more votes are cast in favor of the motion is approved. If 3 or less votes are cast in favor of the motion is denied. The following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting: the City Code of the City of Jefferson as amended, the Comprehensive Plan and Land Use Map, copies of applications under consideration, a list of property owners to whom notices were sent, the affidavit of publication of the public notice to the newspaper, copies of drawings, plans, and renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff, staff reports, minutes of proceedings, correspondence, or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant, rules of procedure for the Jefferson City Board of Adjustment. These items are public record and available for inspection through the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. Please be advised that any items that are presented, distributed, or otherwise received pertaining to the case under consideration become the property of the board. This includes any photographs, drawings, petitions, and letters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Regarding our minutes from the meeting of December 12th, can I have a motion to adopt the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Communication, some correspondence.
Yes, did we adopt the agenda?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed or as printed? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Okay. There has been some communications, I understand, regarding today's agenda.
If usually give all the membership an opportunity to read through that if they haven't.
Correct. That's what I was doing. All right, let's move into our new business, our public hearing, which is case number BT 4001, 1208 to 1212 Carter Street, a conditional use permit. We have a request filed by Elias Catholic High School property owner for a conditional use permit for a new performing arts center, field house expansion, and baseball field. Courtney?
The request is for a conditional use permit for 2 new parking lots to serve a new proposed performing arts center and baseball field as a part of the Elias Catholic High School campus. The requested conditional use permit is for the parcels located, or which were recently acquired, and these are addresses 1208 and 1212 Carter Street, and are shown by a thick black outline on the screen with interior hatching. The main high school campus, which is also shown on the screen, is outlined in a thick black outline with no hatching. With existing and newly acquired land, they are both the existing and recently acquired land are RS2 low density residential, and surrounding zoning is also all RS2 low density residential with surrounding uses including single family residential use, parking space, and of course institutional/school use. This is a site aerial from 2021, and it shows both the existing campus outlined in black, a thick black line with no hatching, and the new property that was acquired. It is outlined in black, thick outline and with interior hatching, and that is again 1208 and 1212 Carter Street. And now with this property under the ownership of Elias Catholic High School, the school is looking to utilize these 2 former residential properties in order to expand its existing campus with construction of new parking lots to accommodate and serve, again, a new proposed performing arts center and baseball field, which would be the performing arts center and baseball field would be constructed on the main existing campus, again outlined in a thick black outline with no hatching on the street. Homes currently at 1208 and 1212 Carter Street are planned to be demolished. As the structure is over 50 years old, they will be reviewed. Their demolition will be reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission at their meeting tonight at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. After demolition, the parcels will be used for the parking lots to be components of and to serve other components of the expansion projects of the Helias Catholic High School campus. The aerial shows that the school has a parking lot just to the north of and another parking lot just to the south of 1208 and 1212 Carter Street. These parking lots were constructed in the mid-2000s per the zoning code as permissive uses, therefore not needing a conditional use permit. Now that the school is looking to increase their parking capacity by utilizing the 1208 and 1212 Carter Street properties, and since those properties were acquired after 2002. So let's look back in time some 22 years ago with this image from 2002. It is showing the same area as the previous slide, which showed the area from 2001. This is the main campus of Helias as shown in 2002. An old baseball field is shown where on the previous image there was a parking lot just above 1208 Carter Street. Helias made this area into that parking lot just both above 1208 and just below 1212 Carter Street into parking lots to serve the campus, and they're looking again to add more parking to serve a new proposed performing arts center and baseball field, which will be placed on the main campus. Private high schools are considered a conditional use in the RS2 zoning district per the zoning code. The last version of the zoning code before the current version was a revision of the code in 1998. The zoning ordinance listed schools as permitted uses of the RS2 district. The latest zoning code, though, was a rewrite from 2002 and is still used today. It lists now private schools as conditional uses. In the most recent version of the zoning code, this procedure for uses that were once permitted before 2002 but were reclassified after 2002 to conditional uses. This is section 35-73A2B of the zoning code, and it states that an established use is permitted to, or an established use that has been reclassified from a permitted to a conditional use, they are allowed to expand on contiguous land under the ownership of the established use, effective with the date of the reclassification. The majority of this proposed expansion is on property that has been owned by Helias since before the 2002 reclassification of schools. However, the residential parcels on 1208 and 1212 Carter Street were acquired after 2002 and therefore are subject to the conditional use permit requirements and attainment. Review and approval of conditional use permits are conducted by Board of Adjustment. We'll look at the required findings for conditional use permits and come to the final decision. The applicant has submitted a site plan as part of the application for the conditional use permit request. The conditional use permit site plan is preliminary in nature. Final site plan details would need to be submitted to staff for review and administrative approval, pending the approval of the conditional use permit being reviewed by you all today, which governs that land use, the two parking lots. The conditional use permit request is to permit 2 new parking lots, which would be components of the campus expansion and would serve other facilities which will be a part of the expansion on the existing high school campus. The site plan includes several details pertaining to the Performing Arts Center, the proposed Performing Arts Center, baseball field, field house addition, and of course those parking lots and replacement, with one parking lot to serve the Performing Arts Center located at the parcel that is 1208 Carter Street, and another parking lot located where 1212 Carter Street is to serve the baseball field. Both the new parking lots have their own connections to Carter Street and are shown with landscaping islands, and a landscaping plan would need to be submitted with the final site plan. Use standards for athletic fields require a Type C buffer yard when adjacent to residential uses. Compliance with buffer yard requirements needs to be shown on the final site plan. No sidewalk is noted on this conditional use site plan. Sidewalk is required along Carter Street and needs to be shown in the final construction plan. Outdoor lighting for athletic fields is limited to a maximum height of 80 feet and cannot shed more than 2-foot light candles upon adjacent properties. Final construction plans will need to demonstrate compliance with lighting standards. Designated fire lanes meeting the requirements of the fire code would need to be shown on the final site plan. Preliminary stormwater management details are shown on this conditional use permit site plan on screen. Final stormwater components meeting the city code requirements would need to be shown on final construction plans. Those are some beginning information on this request. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Courtney. Do any board members have questions for the staff?
If I may. So just to make it kind of clear, Courtney had laid out some of how the zoning code applies to this particular request and why it is before you this morning. And so I'll go to this image right here. And so she has got this hatched out area right here, and that is the address of the request. Is just those two houses. And so the reason is, back in 2002, the zoning code was rewritten, a pretty substantial rewrite. And one of the things that was done in that was a reclassification of schools, I believe both public and private, from a permitted to a conditional use category. Okay? But an entry into the zoning code regarding that if a use that has been reclassified, they can expand on property that was under their ownership at the time of that reclassification. And so how that applies to this particular request is that if the applicant were proposing an expansion only on property that was owned by them prior to 2002, this would not be before you this morning. It would be reviewed administratively at the staff level to make sure it complies with all normal zoning code and other city code requirements. It would be approved, and then they'd be free to pull a construction permit and proceed. But because these two lots right here were not owned prior to 2002 and are a part of their expansion plan, that is why it is before you. Now, in their expansion plan, they're called out as parking lots, and so that's why the reference is for parking. But in reality, it's a very large project. I think that needs to be recognized, and this is the parking lot that would be serving it, at least partially. And so that's why this is before you. Courtney had touched on a few items that are normal zoning code requirements that would apply to the rest of the project that aren't necessarily associated with the parking lot. Things like the lighting levels, permissible for an athletic field, the requirement for sidewalks to be constructed on frontage for the sidewalk plan. Within the staff report, there's a reference to stormwater, make sure that's managing it. And so we do that because we want to make it clear that whatever is being approved by this body this morning is, that there are still elements that have to comply with normal requirements. You're not granting any kind of variance on the administrative side of this project, the review side of this project. So just to give a little bit more clarity why it is before you and why there's so much focus on these two lots on Carter Street. Yeah, I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. And our focus is those two lots.
Technically, it recognized that the purpose of that is to serve the wider area, so.
Very good. Do any board members have questions for the staff?
Not yet.
Not yet. Who would like to present this case for the applicant?
Good morning, Brian McMillan with Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. And we've been working with Elias for quite a while now. As a matter of fact, the few little parking lots that are there now I designed, and it was kind of the same process. Elias had acquired some properties along Carter Street, and they were way short on parking. And so we kind of squeezed some parking lots in as best we could at that time. And I think the thought at that time was those would be temporary, because there was always the thought that there would be some sort of expansion in the future. And I know probably around 2013, when we started looking at the sports complex and a master plan, I think Architects Alliance was working on a master plan. We were looking at where things would go. And I know a performing arts center was always a big part of Helias's plan, and the baseball field, as well as the other sports stuff that's already been constructed. And when we did the sports complex, we actually did the same thing. I think we had to come to this board, the Board of Adjustment, to get a conditional use plan for that. And so, as Eric mentioned, we are just on these two little properties, technically, if for some reason this didn't get approved, we would probably revise our design and go around those properties and still construct this project. And but we hope not to, because I know some concerns have been there's not enough parking. Well, that's going to give us more parking to have on site to be able to use these properties, and that's basically what they are being used for. So I think this is going to be a wonderful addition to Helias and to our community. I know a lot of community events take place at Helias. My daughter plays soccer, and I know over the years there's been lots of soccer events. It's not just for Helias Catholic High School, it's for the general public that takes place there, and other things like that. So I'm sure these facilities will probably find wider use also for the general public. But as far as some of the technical issues, the site plan that we submitted was very early, so we did not have some things like sidewalks drawn on there yet. At this time, we were really getting close to construction documents, so we do have sidewalks on our plans. We have more stormwater plans developed. So I think all the concerns will be addressed when the final plans come about. So, and I know I saw some of the correspondence that was received, some concern about property line. We do not use fence lines as our design. We have to have a property line. We have a survey for everything, so everything's designed on the property line. And actually in that corner, we are actually moving. The new parking lot will be further away from the property line when it's all said and done. So we're gonna kind of cut into the slope there and slope down a little bit, and we'll be actually further away from the property line. And concerns about the congestion and not enough parking. I mean, this is going to add quite a bit of parking, and so that will be available for use not only for these facilities when they're in use, but also during the day for students. We'll have more parking in the parking lots and not on the city streets. So I think that's going to help a little bit with congestion. And, there may be the occasional time where there's something going on at every deal. And, but ideally, you're going to have a baseball game going on and there's not going to be a performing arts function going on at the same time. So, the baseball is going to use the parking. Well, then performing arts does something, then baseball is probably not going to be going on at the same time. So I think we're going to have adequate parking for this facility. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I will say also that Mr. Ron Vossen is here. He's I believe the president of Helias Catholic, and Abigail Steck from Architects Alliance is here also. She's the main project architect on this project. So should there be any questions for them?
Are there any questions from the board to the applicant?
Yeah, I think you answered most of it, but by opening those two spaces up, you said you'll be able to pull away from residents up on 1101, I think.
Yes.
And probably the same thing on Carter Street, the three houses down there.
Yeah, and I will say on those houses below the site, Helias now owns all those.
Oh, okay.
They actually just closed on Carolyn McDowell's house, which was the closest one. So they own all those properties now.
Oh, okay.
So at some point, we're going to be coming back probably to get a conditional use on those properties also.
Since Helias owns those three now, will there be access into those parking lots from Stadium, or will it only be from Carter Street?
At this time, it'll probably only be from Carter Street. There's just so much grade difference there, and they want to leave that open now to, for future plans. We don't know what they might want to do there.
Brian, presently, is the parking sized to the seating of the Performing Arts Center?
I think I don't have exact calculations yet, but I think when you factor in all the parking on campus, that it would be more than adequate for that.
And then are you looking at underground detention?
Right now, I've got an above ground detention basin. It doesn't show up on this plan, but it's right there. I've got a pretty big detention basin there that I'm trying to get most everything to go to that area. The west side of the site is a mess because we've got storm lines, 2 different storm lines that come under the buildings and go down to that area. And I'm trying to finesse everything to not have to put detention over there. And but we will, and make sure we don't exceed what's there now. But we're definitely will be exceeding on the east side. So that's why we got the detention basin over there. Yes.
I think it's important to point out that from a congestion standpoint, you know, you're going to have school at one particular time. People are going to leave, and then you're going to have other events that I would imagine are probably not going to overlap. I don't know, when does Helias play baseball? Most of the time in the evening?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, so school's out. Of course, the performing arts would be 7 o'clock or something like that. So I think that's a big factor there from the standpoint of congestion.
Thank you, Brian. Is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition to this request?
The other applicants first.
Well,
I don't have any opposition, but I would be neutral to speak.
fine.
My name is Mitch Boucher, and I live at 1007 Swifts Highway, so I'm just east of Helias. And when I walk down the sidewalk to walk around the block or walk down to Washington Park, I go to Helias, and then the sidewalk stops. So anybody that walks down that area has to cross over Swifts Highway to the north side in order to continue on, and then they have to cross back over again to get back on. And Swifts Highway is a busy road. It doesn't seem like it, but it's a pretty busy road. I came with the intention of talking about sidewalks, and I know it's been preemptively talked about. Eric talked about it, that it was going to be changing. Carter Street is a pretty narrow street, and I know when they develop this parking lot, there's going to be a lot of traffic trying to flow out of Carter Street. And if you look at right now, when the students leave the school and come down Carter Street, that street is full. And there's parking on both sides of that street. So my concern was with sidewalks to allow for a safe egress through that area. And I just wanted to make a point that, you know, we need to keep in mind not just the construction of this great facility, and I have no problem with that at all, but I just want to make it safe for everyone in the area. Thanks.
Thank you. So anybody else that would like to speak regarding this proposal? Seeing none, we'll close testimony. Courtney?
The requested conditional use permit for 2 new parking lots, which would serve a new proposed Performing Arts Center baseball field to be constructed on the existing Helias Catholic High School campus, is what this conditional use permit is for. The uses are proposed as a part of that are a part of the expansion would be on both the existing and current or recently acquired land, and they appear to be in alignment with the general intent and purpose of both the comprehensive plan and the zoning code. Expansion of Helias towards Carter Street appears to be logical, and the school has been working towards acquiring properties along Carter Street for a number of years. Compliance with all noted zoning and other zoning and city code requirements will need to be indicated on the plan. City staff recommends approval of the requested conditional use permit for the 2 new parking lots constructed on 1208 and 1212 Carter Street. What we have today is a single form motion, which is a motion to approve the conditional use permit with the following condition that there must be compliance with all zoning, fire, stormwater, and other applicable city code requirements. Thank you, Mr.
Are there any questions to staff?
I have one, I think. So with the chain, I guess it's a movement of parking over to this area, is there any, will there be any issues for need for any kind of stoplights or anything like that?
Okay, like a traffic impact.
Yes, yes.
And so, we touch on traffic very, very slightly within the staff report with the general kind of conclusion at the staff level that, this is not a major change in the traffic generation for Helias. The major peak hour traffic generation is usually what is looked at from an engineering analysis, in order to, make sure that the roads can accommodate that traffic. Well, the peak hour is going to be, like the morning, rush hour, so to speak. In this case, when all the students are coming to the school during rush hour traffic for the rest of the city, the other streets in the area. And so addition of, other facilities that are occurring during off hours, would not be expected to have a major impact on that kind of peak hour generation level. So that's really the conclusion at the staff level. Now, will it be a redirection of some of the traffic in the area? Yeah, slightly. Obviously it's a couple parking lots coming off of another street. I would think that most of the traffic that is accessing the high school area is already in the vicinity. And so no, we're not coming to a conclusion that there's off-site improvements that are necessary.
And then to Mitch's, not question, but suggestion, is there anything in the new building codes that would require sidewalks?
So yes, there is a requirement for sidewalk construction whenever there are building expansions. And that's for any sidewalks that are shown on the city's sidewalk plan. And so there's an actual plan that was adopted a number of years ago. And then the sidewalk construction requirement, the ordinance, refers to that plan. So there's a map of the city that has a bunch of streets highlighted. So if a new development is occurring on one of those streets that are highlighted, then yes, city staff informs the property owner, the developer, that sidewalk construction on that street is part of the requirement. In Helias's case, all 4 streets, I say all 4, the entirety, the entire boundary of their parent property here, including Carter Street, Stadium, Myrtle, and Swifts Highway are all shown on that sidewalk map. That makes sense. This is a school. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic. And so I think what the reference was is that maybe the sidewalk along Swifts Highway probably starts right here at their property line and then continues on, and then I think ends somewhere around in here. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but the sidewalk construction trigger within an expansion, building expansions, would be triggering sidewalk for the entirety of their street frontage.
So this expansion of the ball field and the arts center would require sidewalk all the way around, or just where the expansion is?
No, it's actually for the property, yeah. So not only if there's something missing up there, that's something we'd be looking at, and we would look at during normal administrative review, as I mentioned, but then also along Carter Street. And so.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jay. And piggybacking your concern and listening to Mitch's testimony, would staff look at or consider restricting parking to one side of Carter Street, probably on the residential side, the east side? And then we have a lot of cars that will be coming out of the new proposed parking lots. And during those times, there would be, in my estimation, there could be increased traffic on Carter. It's not a request, just a question of consideration.
One moment.
We typically look to see what's on the books as far as what's allowed and what's restricted, and take a look at that, and then discuss that with the consultant. Take a look and see if there's any opportunity to make any changes at that time.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking with the expansion of parking, there'll be less demand for street parking, as Brian indicated. So could be a win-win. All right, any other questions? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion, Chairman. I move to approve the requested conditional use permit with the following condition: compliance with all applicable zoning, fire, stormwater, and other applicable city code requirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Tiffany, would you please do roll call?
Yes, sir. Crabtree,
Yes.
Bieber,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Lacy,
Yes.
and Michael.
Yes.
Motion carries. Miscellaneous reports, sir.
Yeah, just to cap off that request. So the applicant, they're free to proceed with final construction plans. Submit those at your leisure, and we'll review those in the normal course of things. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us or hang out till after. Feel free to leave. Although I don't think we have a whole lot to do for the remainder of this.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very good. Other business.
Don't really have the staff updates. There's a lot going on. We had a couple of cases in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, PUD plans for development out on West Edgewood Drive and then off of Lorenzo Green Drive. The Special Learning Center has acquired property on technically Weathered Rock Road, but right, they're off of Lorenzo Green Drive, and so it's very exciting to see their plans to move to that facility. That case was recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. There's a PUD plan for actually just a portion of their plan there to build an additional building, but it's currently at the City Council awaiting a public hearing and final decision. And then out on West Edgewood Drive, plans for a very large office building, auditorium area for the Missouri Primary Care Association. I always have trouble remembering their name. And to develop property owned by the Chamber of Commerce. And so to acquire that and build on it. And so again, a PUD plan that was recommended for approval by the City Council and is waiting, going in front of, or sorry, recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, waiting in front of the City Council. Both those cases are actually scheduled for next month. And then a couple cases that are in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission right now. One of them for a rodeo on Boonville Road, and so an interesting case. Probably one of the more complex PUD plans, especially in terms of conditions that are being recommended to be attached to any approval of that.
That would be down on the end by 179.
Correct.
Down.
Eric?
Yeah.
I recently heard that Elias is putting in a new baseball field.
Yes.
And do you think we could use that baseball field for the rodeo too?
I'll table that discussion.
That's another movie.
You know, it is, the kind of the staff, analysis of that request, actually a neutral stance, recognizing that it's a very sensitive area, residential uses surrounding it, or bordering it at least. But then also, certainly a unique kind of entertainment, opportunity, although the property owner is really envisioning it, as a very, very kind of minimal scale from what he's presented.
There's not really, I live off of Boonville, there's not that many residences really down in that area. I mean, there's a new house was built there maybe 6 months to a year ago that might be affected.
And that was actually the applicant, the property owner.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
so.
Okay, fair enough.
Eric, anything in the pipeline to come before us?
I think we do have one case filed for next month. And so we are planning to have a meeting next month.
Thanks, very good. Any other business? If not, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you for attending.
Thank you all. Hope you have a good day.